Hello and welcome, brothers and sisters of the multiverse, to Let's Think This Through. If you watched any of my videos before, I mentioned many different things that come together somewhere, and this is one of them. Today I want to talk about how trauma ripples throughout society. None of us come through this life unscathed, undamaged. Some of us work through some stuff, but most of us, I think, don't, or not enough. And at least the closest to every one of those people feel it on some point or another, or maybe every day, which is really horrifying and unnecessary. This responsibility that we all have, all that want to call themselves adults, have that responsibility to work on themselves. But we also have the responsibility for all those people around us, directly or indirectly. And I know we can't always be 100% vigilant and knowing how something would affect someone, right? But taking that as an excuse not even to try, to honestly try, is also not a solution. I leave that up to you, where you draw the line of where you think you can make a good difference or just enjoy your life. But let me give you a few examples where these trauma ripples affected millions through one. The famous example, and I think you already know that, are men like Hitler, right? If certain things didn't happen in his childhood, and if he would have been, for example, accepted in this art school, none of this would happen. None of those millions would have been murdered. None of the other countless millions would be terrorized. None of that would be happening. It starts with one man. It starts with one. Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, all of those throughout history. But there are also those damaged directly or indirectly by so many others. A few more examples. The bureaucrat who designed the modern school system, Horace Mann. His seed of trauma, he grew up in the strict colonist control, punished for curiosity. The result? Created a standardized, obedient model of education designed to discipline children for factory life. Ripple effect. Millions conditioned for compliance, not creativity. Echoing that single childhood of fear and suppression. Another one. A timid accountant who invented the credit score. Seed of trauma, humiliation by banks and higher status people in his youth. The result? Designed a cold mathematical system to remove human bias, ironically replacing empathy with permanent judgment. Ripple effect. Generations now enslaved by numbers, living in fear of losing points, dignity, or access. Another one. A doctor who normalized electroshock therapy. His seed of trauma, the guilt over his mother's mental breakdown. The result? Tried to cure madness through control, physical domination as redemption. Ripple effect, a century of psychiatric cruelty rationalized as medicine. And countless made vegetables. It's even worse than, judge for yourself, but keeping your mental capacity, yourself, your personality, even in a gulag, might have been better than ending up as a drooling vegetable. Right? One more. The marketing executive who popularized the perfect body. His seed of trauma, rejected and mocked in childhood, desperate to create an image people would worship. Result, build campaigns idolizing flawless beauty. Ripple effect, endless body shame, consumer obsession, eating disorders, all from one man's private rejection. Now, I think I made a point. And the thing is not to justify not acting by going into the opposite extreme. Just the right amount of balance and empathy, a little brain power, a little heart. Could have prevented basically all of what's not as optimal in this world. All those ripple effects accumulated is what we call culture and normal. And many of it is not. It has nothing to do with human nature or with quality of life or any of that. It's just what we are used to now. People get used to far too many things that they shouldn't, I'd say. And people growing up in those conditions without any other examples to compare it to, because it's mostly the same all around the world about certain things, right? Norms and laws and such. And due to schooling system and the obedience trainings and the indoctrinations and all of that, through starting with our parents who were also indoctrinated and brainwashed to accept certain standards of the norm, you know. And they lose, through that schooling system, they lose imagination. They learn to accept what is. And if someone can't even imagine it different, they'll automatically decline the idea itself. All to avoid cognitive dissonance that they have contributed, and often actively, in keeping the status quo. But not asking what I also mentioned, these 5 whys. Why is it how it is? The first one, trauma ripples is just the obvious, the symptom, not the core. Most people don't even want to go there. And yet, we have choices every day to keep a little active agent in our brains when some certain situations are happening, and how we use our agency of free will to influence situations in other people. That's why autopilot is such a nemesis. And self-awareness is the beginning of a potential curing way of even starting to make some positive changes. Self-awareness, integrity, alignment of words and deeds, of that what people sell other people through their social mask of what they are, what they believe in, what they would do when the time comes. And then when it comes, path of least resistance. Every single act, especially with children, especially for parents, for teachers, preschool and kindergarten personnel, all of them, they have the biggest responsibility. But I never hear from any of those who went through those schools for their jobs. For parents, there is basically none. Everyone can be one, biologically, but not mentally and emotionally. And where do we even start with it? let's start with realizing the status quo, not as having it become what it is because it was unavoidable, because what we do today will be made the norm tomorrow, right? Awareness is key. Little knowledge, a little basic knowledge of psychology wouldn't be a bad idea. For starters, to even avoid unnecessary trauma. The first thing is empathy. In every interaction, when we feel that some heat is coming up, just pause for a second. Put yourself in other shoes. Look the story from their perspective, but don't lose your own. Acknowledge the other. Respond out of integrity and respect to the other. Try to meet somewhere in the middle. At least that. And if at least 50% of us would do it, that would also enormously ripple positively. I'll bet we'd see a steep decline of mental issues in the next generations. Every one of us is responsible as an adult in every interaction with any other person. Because not even that interaction might influence that person in an extreme way, but that person could have a bad day, and that one slightly negative reaction from you could tip them into a certain mental state, and then the next one who interacts with them gets it, and then they give that on and on it goes. That's also part of our responsibility. Socially, culturally, interpersonally, not direct, but indirect responsibility is still responsibility. We can't wash our hands from that if we are aware how most people are unaware. That's why we who are should be triple as aware, you know. It's at least my take on it, until the majority is also ready to see it. And the less pressure and the more understanding they get, the more those possibilities open up. clarity, informative, not judgmental, just sometimes even just presence. Calm demeanor. Refrain from emotional outbursts by first triggers of them. Self-control. It's for everyone and would ripple out just as positively as those things do. And maybe, just maybe, again, the more people do it, the more people care, the easier it is on the global scale for others to care. It would smoothen out the waves, right? And it's in every single each of our hands to decide for ourselves what kind of possible future for our children and grandchildren are we going to contribute to? Are we going to focus further on short-term gains or the long-term ones? Are we going to sacrifice the future for the present? Or are we going to sacrifice the present for the future? Ripple effects can also be positive. Now again, I feel like I gotta say it. It's not about falsely grinning to everyone that spits in your face. That's not empathy. That's just spiritual bypassing and dismissal and surrender and avoidance and all of that. No, I'm talking about integrity, about the calm, discussion, about the meaningful discourse over what is not all right. Self-control, respect, a little more awareness, maybe a little more heart. Could never hurt. Can, but in other ways. I mean, what are we doing? When was the last time you even heard someone apologizing for something to anyone? It's gone. It's like apologizing is out for a few decades now. No one talks about apologizing. That's at least the admission to yourself that you did something wrong and try to do some even small scale reparations by acknowledging it and apologizing. That's so out, right? Not realizing that you're responsible is not what I would personally categorize as an adult trait. Self-reflection is the bare minimum of requirements for an adult human being. We all make mistakes. But as long as we realize it and work on it and change it so we don't do it again, we are going somewhere. Even if it's baby steps, keep at it, you know. We should keep at it our whole lives. You can always do better. And there are no shortcuts again. There are no shortcuts. You can't easily boil it down to a 10-point checklist or something. First you gotta feel it. Learn to feel it. Feel yourself and the other. Where are you coming from? Where they're coming from. And then go from there in the deeper layers of understanding through psychology. But psychology is a thing, right? Everything can be interpreted at least in 2 different ways. But I'll get to that the next time. Today I wanted to just mention those ripples. Let's at least try to make positive ones. Alrighty? Let's try. Let's give it a go. Let's just be so adventurous to try. Okay? Love you, brothers and sisters.